The Los Angeles Lakers just honored Pat Riley with a 22-point blowout. What's up, everyone, and welcome in to Your Celtics Source, home of your 37-19 second place Boston Celtics on this Sunday evening after the Boston Celtics absolutely dominated the Los Angeles Lakers, and all the stars were playing. This was one of the first matchups of the season where the stars for both teams, usually the other team because the Celtics for the most part have been healthy this season, but this was the first game where Luca played, LeBron played, Austin Reeves played against the Celtics this season. And obviously they only played twice, and those three have only played now 12 times total for the Lakers this season. But this was, like the Warriors game, just a great test against not a great Western Conference opponent, but definitely an opponent that can be a great opponent when everything's working for them, just because of the elite offensive talent that the three of those players that I just mentioned combine or just have in them, right? Luca is one of the best offensive players in the game. LeBron's one of the best facilitators in the game. Austin Reeves is a great secondary ball handler to Luca who can play alongside him, right? And that's one of the reasons why they actually have one of, if not the best, clutch record in the NBA. You know, they have had some blowouts like this one. They've had a couple of games where they have won big, but for the most part, they haven't been able to win big because of the defense, which we'll talk about in just a second. But they've won all these close games because down the stretch in a close game, it's just impossible for a team to guard all three of those guys for a 2-minute stretch. But over the course of a game, the Boston Celtics were able to just blow them out. And it really started right from the beginning. We'll talk about Jaylen Brown. I think he had a okay game. I didn't think this was one of his best games. He definitely got the scoring. He did a great job with the facilitating and rebounding as well. We'll get to him. It was a pretty inefficient game with a couple of turnovers as well. But we'll save that for next. I want to start with the job that Hugo Gonzalez did on Luka Doncić. And I know, they were talking a little bit about this on the NBC broadcast, but the fact that Hugo Gonzalez grew up idolizing Luka Doncic over in Spain when he played for Real Madrid, and Luka would come in actually when he was already in the NBA. And, once or twice a year he'd come in and talk to the Real Madrid squad, and Hugo Gonzalez got to hear from him and whatever. And now they're in the NBA together, and the first possession, or really, first couple possessions, Hugo Gonzalez is immediately guarding Luka Doncic, full court pressure, and at first, Luka makes a great three over the top of him, a step back three, got him to sort of jump in the air, and then, he was sort of laughing and, trash talking down the court as they ran back, as Luka loves to do. But then after that, Hugo Gonzalez was able to just stand his ground and take Luka Doncic out of the game. And yes, Luka still had his points, right? He still had 25 points, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, on 9 of 27, or 9 of 22 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3, right? But the 25 points is not going to hurt you, especially on the efficiency that he had. And he only had 3 assists, right? Usually Luka's having up in the 8, 9, 10 double-digit assists. And so in a game where not only are you able to limit his production efficiency-wise, but you also take him out of the game passing-wise, he's not able to get his teammates involved. And that's the biggest difference between this Lakers team and this Celtics team. The star talent at the top offensively, it probably slightly favors the Los Angeles Lakers, even with Jaylen Brown for the most part this season playing like an MVP. Luka's also an MVP candidate for that matter. I would have Jaylen Brown over him just because of my bias, obviously, but just because of the state of where the Celtics and Lakers are at. But the reason that they're in these different places is because of what the Celtics are doing on the other end. You have all 5 guys out there, especially when you play Hugo Gonzalez in the starting lineup. Hauser, I do believe, started, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Hauser, Scheierman, White, Queta, Brown, right? But when Hugo Gonzalez comes in right away and takes out a Baylor Scheierman, you now have 5 guys that are elite defenders at their position, right? And Luka Doncic was able to get, bully Derek White a little bit and get to the paint. Derek White is a little bit smaller than he is. Derek White is a much better, off-ball defender than on-ball defender. Not that he's a bad bad on-ball defender by any means, but those bigger players can get Derek White a little bit. He does a great job sort of coming over and helping and cleaning up shots at the rim rather than just holding your ground while being back down. And so Luka was able to get to White a little bit to start. But once Hugo Gonzalez comes in and just stands him up, Luka is just flustered. He's throwing up these ridiculous mid-ranges, and sometimes they fall because Luka's one of the best offensive players in the game. But for the most part, it was ending in single possessions, one and done, defensive rebound for the Celtics, and they're able to get out in transition. And in a couple of times, Luka's complaining about not getting a foul, and that allows Hugo Gonzalez to streak the floor for a transition dunk or transition reverse layup like he had one time where Luka thought he got fouled on an and 1-3. Instead of getting up and going back and guarding your man or anyone, right, just getting back on defense. And so that's the difference. The difference is that all 5 guys, not only do they defend, and they can defend for the most part, everyone except probably Derek White, when they're on the floor like that, can defend all 5 positions, right? Derek White's going to struggle a little bit against centers and maybe a bigger guard like Luka Doncic, but everyone else, Jaylen Brown, Hugo Gonzalez, of course, Neemias Queta has become a great center, a great defender this season, right? Much better. The improvement this season from Neemias Queta is astronomical. His ability to slide his feet and not get beat off the dribble on the perimeter not only complements his ability to then also be a great rim protection, but allows him to stay on the floor, not get pick up fouls, and then he's able to become a just elite force on the offensive end because the Lakers, I guess, right, the Lakers don't have a true center, right? Or I guess they have a center, DeAndre Ayton, but he's not near the level of what Neemias Queta can bring, especially in the roles that they're playing, right? They're asking for the Lakers, DeAndre Ayton to clean up all the the drives that players are able to get on Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, right? Clean that up with rim protection because of how bad Luka and Austin Reeves are defensively. The Celtics are not asking them to do Neemias Queta to do that because for the most part, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, whoever's on the floor can do a good job and force a bad shot, and then all Neemias Queta has to do is get the rebound. He's not being asked to clean up mistakes after mistakes, and that allows Neemias Queta to stay true to his position and make a great play defensively. As for the Celtics offensive side of that, we can move on to Jaylen Brown here. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't think it was a great game from him offensively, right? He does get to 32 points on 10 of 28 shooting, 3 of 9 from 3. 9 of 12 from the line is pretty good for him. Did miss a couple early and then cleaned it up. 8 rebounds and 7 assists, right? That was the biggest difference in this game from Luka Doncic to Jaylen Brown. The fact that, both of them didn't have great games scoring-wise. In fact, Jaylen Brown had a worse game efficiency-wise. But Jaylen Brown was able to complement that with making the great plays defensively with the rebounds and then finding his teammates, finding Payton Pritchard, finding Derek White. Had some great dimes to Neemias Queta for dunks wide open dunks on pick and rolls. Jaylen Brown has become, in the last month or so of games, Jaylen Brown has been a great facilitator for this team. Right, he came into this season. Obviously, we saw right from the jump how impactful he was and how he was not going to let this team down this season. It was not going to be a gap year. Jaylen Brown was playing like an MVP. But in the last month, he's just taking it to a whole nother level, and that is the playmaking, something that we haven't seen consistently from him. But in the last month, he has done that. And the 5 turnovers is not great for him. An uncharacteristic game, I should say, from Jaylen Brown turnover-wise. Couple forced passes that he was trying to get, but it was him trying to look for good shots from his teammates, right? That's where those turnovers come. There weren't a lot of, live ball turnovers from him. There were a couple, trying to squeeze a small gap, a pass into like an Hugo Gonzalez or a Baylor Scheierman, trying to get those guys involved. And some of those, just a few of them didn't end up going the way the Celtics wanted to. But in the end, the fact that Jaylen Brown was trying that versus Luka Doncic not being able to do anything on that end was the difference in this game. You also got, solid contribution from Derek White, who, still struggles a little bit shooting-wise. He's never been able to get that going this season, but he does go 5 of 13 in this game, 2 of 6 from 3, 5 rebounds, 8 assists from Derek White as well, right? So Derek White, right, the assist number is actually funny, right? Because they've been, I think, one of, if not the worst team in terms of total number of assists per game. They've been a very big ISO game, and not a lot of ISO, but a lot of screen assists versus actual assists, right? So players like Hauser, White, Brown coming around screens and shooting threes, which don't go into the box score as a screen, obviously, right? And so it comes out as like a lot of ISO ball and not a lot of assists. But over the last 4 or 5 games, and especially in the Warriors game and in the Lakers game, the assists have skyrocketed for this team. They have basically really just changed the style of play ever since Nikola Vucevic really got to this team. They have changed the style that they're playing with, and Nikola Vucevic has been a great addition. With the depth, or I guess defensive talent that the Celtics have around, Nikola Vucevic hasn't been, blown apart defensively, especially wasn't in this game. This wasn't a big Vuce game, obviously. He does play 21 minutes, scores just 9 points. He didn't need to be a big factor offensively, but defensively, he wasn't being attacked. I thought coming into this game, this wouldn't be a big game in terms of minutes for Nikola Vucevic, because I thought he would just be attacked by Luka Doncic each and every time down the floor, Austin Reeves as well. But he was able to hold his ground in this game, allowing Joe to play him more, and then he was able to clean up misses from him and Reeves and whoever shot it on the Lakers, get the defensive rebounds, hold the Lakers to one and done. And so overall, you look at this game, right? They only score 111 points. There was some good team scoring, but for the most part, this wasn't a great scoring game from anyone except Payton Pritchard. And we'll get to Payton Pritchard in just a second, because Payton Pritchard was just elite in this game. Efficiency-wise, the moves, the highlights, the buzzer beaters, the step-backs over Luka Doncic, and I think he had one, I forget who it was on. It might have been on Vanderbilt, where he pushed him to the ground, broke his ankles, really, and then stepped back for a 3 early in the first half. So we'll get to Payton Pritchard in just a second. But other than that, and, the okay efficiency from Jaylen Brown, it was a team scoring-wise. They won this game on the defensive end. The 111 points is not a all-worldly number by any means, but the 89 points defensively is one of their better defensive performances of the season. All right, but as I just hinted, Payton Pritchard. And, ever since he's gone to the bench, he has just lit it up. I don't know. It wasn't like he was terrible in the starting unit. He just had to go to the bench to help out the scoring and spread out the scoring, right? Because the Celtics were going to struggle without Anthony Simons. And he hasn't pouted about it. Obviously, that's not the guy that he is. But he just comes in, and each and every single night, he not only either sparks a run, adds to a run that's already started. It's not like he's playing, fewer minutes or anything. He's still coming in like 4 minutes into the game and playing 30-plus minutes. He plays 38 minutes in this game, something that you rarely see from players in the regular season, right? You rarely see guys play 38 minutes. But Payton Pritchard is one of those guys that just does not get tired. He just comes in and works his tails off. And then in this game, 30 points, 10 of 14 shooting, 6 of 9 from 3, 8 assists as well. So the ball was flying around from everyone tonight. They end with, I am not mistaken, 29 assists. That's got to be one of their season highs for sure. But Payton Pritchard, just something about the buzzer. When the buzzer is about to go off or is going off as he's shooting it, he does not miss. Or, I shouldn't say he does not miss, but he just loves that moment. The moment where he can just basically ignite a crowd, ignite his teammates, change the momentum of the game. He lives for those moments. We saw them in the NBA Finals in 2024. But in this game, I think he had 3, buzzers, or if not perfect buzzers, close to buzzer beaters to end the quarter and half and third quarter in this game. Or maybe there was a shot clock one in there as well. But the step backs over Luka Doncic, the step backs over LeBron James, add that to the fact that he's going against sometimes guys like LeBron James and Austin Hayes and DeAndre Ayton, guys that are, 6'8", 6'9", and taller, right? And he's just cooking them off the dribble in the paint. Not only the floaters, but just bullying them with, when I say size, it's really the lack of size. But still, he has a way to just get to his spot, push a guy, get him off balance, and just go up and score. It's just incredible to watch what Payton Pritchard is able to do as one of the smaller guys on the court each and every night. And, I can't say enough about how, instrumental Payton Pritchard is to the team's success right now. We see what Jaylen Brown is doing. He's the MVP. But Payton Pritchard, after, starting for over half of the season, I can't argue that I don't think he's going to play enough games off the bench by the time the season ends. But who's to say he's not a back-to-back 6th Man of the Year candidate? Obviously, he won it last year. But if he plays every game off the bench and he's scoring 34 points, or what is it in this game? 30 points, but he's scoring 25-plus points a night, who's to say he's not a 6th Man of the Year again? And I don't think he's going to win it just because, voters are going to look and say, yeah, he played the first half of the season as a starter. He's not a true 6th man this season. But that doesn't, take away from the fact that he's coming in and just winning you games each and every single night. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. You got some good possessions from other guys as well. Baylor Scheierman didn't have a big impact on this game after starting. He does play 29 minutes, has just 5 points. I liked his hustle. I liked his defense. Baylor Scheierman has carved out a role defensively, not just offensively. And then he has that, ability to hit no-dip threes and corner threes in general, which has added a great spark to this team. And when they're going, you can get great games from like this one. But then you get games where, he's just out there, but he's not a liability anymore. He's not going to just, stand in the corner, or the second he gets the ball, he's going to pass it up. If he's not taking shots, at least he's driving closeouts and forcing teams to guard him, and then he's able to kick it out or create open shots for other players, right? He's not just a non-shooter out there where teams can leave him open. He still makes an impact offensively, something that we haven't seen from him, or we didn't see from him earlier in this season, and definitely last year in his rookie year. So overall, this is a great season for not only Jaylen Brown, not only, some of the, role players. Right, Derek White's not having a great season shooting-wise, but he's having a elite year defensively. and obviously is still, a top-notch player when it comes to plus-minus. But this is also a great year for not only Joe Mazzulla and the way he's able to coach this team to a second seed in the Eastern Conference, but also Hugo Gonzalez, a rookie, Jordan Walsh, Baylor Scheierman, especially Walsh and Scheierman, two guys that you thought were maybe end of the rotation, especially for Walsh. If he didn't make an impact this year, he might be out of the NBA. And Joe Mazzulla, this team, this culture, has changed the development path for these three guys, the speed at which they are becoming true NBA players. You now have three core, role players, if not rotation guys, for the future when you are not only contending for championships year after year, but in the final stages of Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum's prime, you now have three guys that can complement them cheaply. And so that's the biggest thing I take away from not only this game, but the season overall. No matter what happens when Jayson Tatum comes back, when Jaylen Brown and this team head into the playoffs, they can make a run with or without Jayson Tatum. If Jayson Tatum comes back, they can make a run to the NBA Finals if Jayson Tatum comes back. If not, I do think they end Eastern Conference Finals. But the point being is that this year, everyone came in saying it's a gap year. We know it's now not a gap year. But the biggest thing coming out of this is you now have guys that can help you win. And so I'm going to leave it at that. Follow on social media. Once again, the Boston Celtics blow out the Los Angeles Lakers 111-89. They improve to 37-19, 3 games away from getting to that, 40 wins before 20 losses, the, ceremonial mark of a championship contender. We'll see. They have tough games coming up. You've probably gone through the 2 toughest ones, but you have the Suns on Tuesday. I'm not mistaken. I think it's a little bit earlier, despite it being a West Coast team. I am checking here. It's a 9 o'clock game, so we probably won't have a reaction right after the game. I'll do something the next day, sometime the next day. I can't tell you whether it'll be early or in the afternoon, but we'll have a reaction to that game, and we'll get back on our track. Our next podcast episode, full podcast episode, will be after the, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they play the Suns, and then do they play the, who do they play after the Suns? I do believe they play the, that's right, the Nuggets. So that's going to be a rough game as well. I do think, they're going to lose, I'm not going to say they're going to lose, but the Nuggets and Suns game are definitely going to be 2 hard games, challenges for this team. But the way they're playing right now, I don't think any team is, unbeatable right now. But yeah, we'll have a podcast episode after Wednesday's game, sometime, maybe Thursday, Friday. We'll talk about these 3 games. And, we'll start to, probably not in that episode, but we'll start to do previews of the playoffs as we get closer. Obviously, when Jayson Tatum makes his return, we will go live and have an immediate reaction to that. Next weekend is March 1st. That was the date everybody circled, the day that, obviously NBC, flexed the game to 8 p.m. against the 76ers, I believe that is. Yep. And it just seems so soon that he's going to be coming back then. But who knows, right? Joe Mazzulla refused to say whether he practiced today for the actual team. He might be practicing. He might not be. We don't know. But I do think it'll just be, one day coming up soon. I don't know if it's going to be that Sunday, despite NBC making a movie and whatever about him. I don't know if that's the day. But sooner or later, he's going to be playing this season. And it's just going to be, something that is just breaking news, and we'll go live and talk about that, so stay tuned for that. You can check out the podcast that we did this weekend. We sort of took a step back from the Celtics and looked at the NBA as a whole, tanking, player participation, all the sort of state of the league and what's going on around the league. So you can check that out on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And yeah, until next time, go Celtics.